The dragons of the mountains have scales of a golden colour, and in length excel those of the plain, and they have bushy beards, which are also a golden hue, and their eye is sunk deep under the eyebrow and emits a terrible, ruthless glance. That's from the Greek scholar Philostratus. Hi, hello, and welcome to this episode of Geography Girl, and today I'm going to be answering, why do we believe in dragons? This episode is actually inspired by a Rest is History podcast episode about dragons from 2022, which I found in my downloads the other day and found bloody fascinating. And I'll tell you why dragons have cropped up in cultures in almost all four corners of the world, and between cultures that have never really interacted with each other. They crop up in ancient legends throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. And I want to explore today why so many civilizations have conjured up the same myth of a dragon independently without it ever existing in reality. Now, with all that being said, dragons do look different across cultures, and I'm sure this can tell us something about the cultural and socio-political values of the time. In Europe, for example, in the Middle Ages, the dragon was the grim destroyer, a tale of a wicked and dangerous beast that must be slain by a heroic protagonist. Legends of dragons conjure up ideas of the underworld, crawling out from their underground lair, breathing fire, with horns, scales, and bat wings. It's clearly supposed to depict some kind of hell. It was widely believed that they were a close relative to the snake, which of course was the wily creature that caused the Adam and Eve to eat the apple and precipitate the fall of man. They are found in lots of religious texts, with St. George being a popular symbol in Christian faith and also the patron saint of England. It's also found in the Islamic world too, in Syria and Turkey. The dragon slayer is sometimes known as El Qadir, which is the Muslim patron of spring and fertility. In East Asia, dragons have more of a mystical aura. They're the symbol of power and good luck. Dragons are the ultimate symbol of power and a friendly cultural mascot, you could say. Rather than living underground, they roam the skies. The Chinese dragon Tianlong, or the celestial dragon as it's known as, is thought to have guarded heaven. These sky snakes are ironically not often depicted as having wings, although they're flying, and it is thought that this lore came from people looking at the skies during a storm and seeing lightning bolts and hearing the booms of thunder. Seen as benevolent rather than evil like European dragons, the people of China, especially its rulers, often use the epithet of descendants of dragons to unite its people. In the Americas, particularly in Aztec and Mayan cultures, they were a prominent deity called Quetzalcoatl, which translates to the many-feathered serpent. He was the god of the sun, wind, learning, morning, evening, death, and resurrection, amongst so much more, and is thought to have played a key role in creating humans out of bones that he stole from the underworld. But what is the reason for the ubiquitosity of this beast? The first and most obvious answer is that they came from the misinterpretation of fossils. Early people often found large, mysterious bones and fossils without understanding their origins. Imagine finding the bones of a T-Rex, you would totally interpret that as the remain of a dragon, right? Leading to the belief that these creatures once roamed the earth. A Triassic fossil found in southern China, for example, has literally been nicknamed the dragon due to its incredibly long necks. Dragon bones, or longu, were commonly prescribed as a treatment for multiple illnesses in ancient Chinese recipes, such as this one by the Chinese medical scholar Li Zua. My favourite theory is that dragons represent a universal archetype in the human psyche, embodying the terror of the unknown and a struggle between good and evil, and our challenge to overcome great obstacles. In the book An Instinct for Dragons, University of Central Florida anthropologist Dr. David E. Jones argues that myths about dragons are so common because we've evolved to develop a mental imprint of dangerous predators rooted in our evolutionary instinct. Jones argues that the fear of predators, particularly snakes, birds of prey, and large cats, is deeply ingrained in the human psyche. Our early ancestors had to survive in environments where these predators were a constant threat, leading to an evolutionary adaptation and a predatory recognition system in our brains. The dragon is a composite of these three primary predators. The serpentine body resembles snakes, wings or ability to fly draws from birds of prey, and fierce, sometimes lion-like head reflects large predatory mammals. This combines the form of an archetypal dragon, a creature that taps into our primal fears embedded into our subconscious. As people spread across the world, stories evolved, but the core idea of the dragon persisted, adapting to local environments and cultural norms. This spread and variation of the dragon myth across different geographies reflects how embodied these creatures are in the collective human imagination. The widespread belief in dragons across different cultures, despite geographical isolation, supports Jones's theory in similar depictions across cultures, suggesting a shared instinctual origin. Indeed, depictions of dragons in popular culture in the West reflect anxieties of the time. Let's dive into this character analysis of Smaug from The Hobbit, who represents the anxieties of the interwar period, which is when the book was written. Smaug is a dragon whose evils are indicated by his isolation. He lives alone on the lonely mountain, and his only purpose is to guard the treasure that he stole from the dwarves. Smaug rarely leaves his lair and sleeps on top of accumulated ornaments, utensils, and weapons that constitute the treasure. He represents the wrongful impulse to hoard, to accumulate beyond one can use, and to refuse to share with others. He destroys the lake town of Esgaroth, and the complete destruction of the town and the displacement of men, women, and children is depicted as a characteristic of Smaug's inherent irrationality and evil. There is nothing sympathetic about Smaug, and the slaying of him is a relief to all. The evil of his hoarding continues, however, when goblins, elves, wargs, men, and dwarves converge on the lonely mountain to battle over his possessions of treasure. This same overarching belief that one's own nation and ethnicity is superior in the motive of others also plays a significant role in the leading up to World War II or World War I. German citizens, for example, were constantly exposed to propaganda that boasted about the superiority of the German military. The nationalism is the extreme belief that an own nation is superior to others, and is represented in Tolkien's illustration of the interracial tensions in The Hobbit. Equally, dragons in our favourite Game of Thrones were thought to reflect the real fear of nuclear apocalypse and an unending devastation that would come with that. The dragons in Game of Thrones inspire our desires and fears and capacity for both greatness and ruin. They're not just symbols of mayhem and carnage, but phoenix-like with a possibility of rebirth and renewal. The dragons in Game of Thrones are like symbols of liberation linked to Daenerys' journey as the breaker of chains and used to free slaves. But the power they enable us to have has a dangerous edge, highlighting the dual nature of power as a weapon of freedom and also a force of annihilation. This deep-seated instinct might explain why dragons evoke such strong emotional responses in humans, whether fear, reverence, fascination. These mythical creatures are a manifestation of our ancient survival mechanisms that continue to resonate in the modern mind. So I hope you enjoyed that rather random and short episode of Geography Girl. Please check out the original Rest is History episode, because obviously they do it the best. And please tell me about your favourite depiction of a dragon, and also like and subscribe, because I would love to reach 20 subscribers. And I'll see you next time.